Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another recording of Circle Up and Get Real, my podcast, where I have been doing a lot of interviews recently, and I've had some amazing interviews. And today I don't have a guest, but I am going to just kind of riff like I've done in the past. And as always, you are welcome to participate by putting a question or a comment here, and then I will address it as it makes sense. But I'm going to just share some of the things I've been thinking about over the spring and now early summer. My hair looks bad. Sorry, I look at myself in there and I just go, ew. Anyway, so I use this for the podcast. So there's a countdown at the beginning, and then it's up later in audio form on my podcast, Circle Up and Get Real. But if you are listening live, please participate. Otherwise, I will. You probably know if you've heard me before on my lives. I don't have too much trouble just kind of riffing and chatting. So I will do that this morning, and I'm going to talk about why we're or who we are, basically. Who am I? I've been listening to some really great audio books now that it's nice outside, and sitting out on my deck and listening and taking notes. And one of my favorites so far, every book that I'm reading is my favorite, is Love Plus Work by Marcus Buckingham. And he's helping me remember some things about myself that I want to share today. So with that, we'll do the countdown and we will go. 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And today, that is you, the listening audience, because I don't have a guest today. However, I do have 2 amazing guests coming up in the next couple of weeks, so you'll want to make sure you bookmark this or remind yourself in some way that you will want to listen to these next 2. And I've had several amazing interviews recently. I'm very grateful for that. And today I'm just going to kind of reflect on some of the things I've been thinking about over this early summer and spring season. And in listening to Marcus Buckingham's book, Love Plus Work, I'm starting to understand some things about myself in ways that maybe I knew but just didn't put together. And I think some of the ways I've been believing things are in the past are getting reframed a little bit. And to me, that's what it means to be learning focused. You don't really always have a solid position necessarily. You might take a stand for things you believe in, and when you are learning focused and in a continual learning mode, some of those things might shift a little bit. And I was kind of surprised to look at myself in a new way here and have some new ideas. And so some of the things that I've been teaching about and talking about for a long time are shifting a little bit. And that is what it is, because I am learning about myself. So I want to talk a little bit today about identity and image, which are 2 different things, and also some of the values that I have been uncovering for myself. So when I look back on my history in my career, let's just say in my career, there are a lot of patterns that I'm identifying, and I can only identify those in looking back. And so I've just done some reflection this spring and am looking at all of the signposts that led me to this place right now. And if I didn't like this place right now where I was, I do, but if I didn't, I might look back and go, okay, what is this telling me? What might I have seen sooner? Not to beat myself up, but to say, okay, the patterns have always been there. What can I do now looking forward that I understand the patterns that my life has been showing me? And so I am doing a little bit of reflection and identification in my identity. And identity to me is just something I believed I was. My identity was a learner. In fact, that's my number 1 strength on the Strengths Finder Index is learner. There's nothing wrong with being a learner. I'm grateful that I'm a learner. And as a former seeker, I would call myself a seeker. I was always seeking something. I'm not quite exactly sure what I was seeking. Maybe some sort of connection, some sort of belonging, some sort of being accepted or right or something like that. That was my perpetual identity, a seeker. And thanks to Chris, my angel, Chris Angel, I am starting to understand that identity of a seeker means that your identity is always seeking and not finding. And so I'm shifting that a little bit, my identity. I'm still in a space where I haven't really defined that yet. And so that's a process. I think it's probably a process for all of us. I'm in week 2 of my course called Real Me Intensive, where I'm facilitating that study with a group of 11 amazing people. And we are digging in to learn more about ourselves. This week, the session was Get Radical. And radical means to get back to the root. And we did that yesterday in the course, and some of the participants said this was a little bit heavy for them. And if you've never looked that deeply at yourself, it can feel a little bit heavy. Most of the world is probably doing the best they can with what they know, and they maybe aren't in the self-reflection space. So a lot of people live their lives by default. They let their lives happen to them because they just don't know there's another option. And that's what I've been exploring probably my whole life, but especially these last couple of months. And what I'm understanding about myself and looking back on my career, I'm going to say have been, because that's what you learn looking back. I'm still working on the I am piece, but I have been conscious, reluctant, curious, visionary. That's who I've seen myself as when I look back. A conscious, reluctant, curious, visionary. And I might also add to that an intrapreneur. Because as my early career showed me when I was looking for a job, as we do when we're young, look for a job. And I would find myself in places that I would stay for a while, but I didn't stay for a long time. The one I stayed at the longest was a 10-year job, and I was very curious and visionary. And another of the strengths in the StrengthsFinder Index is a maximizer. And when I first took the StrengthsFinder back in 2009, maximizer was my number one. And from my understanding, a maximizer is someone who sees a situation and always wants to add to it to make it better. And if I didn't know better, which I didn't back then, I would cause people to feel as if they weren't good enough because I was always looking for ways to make things better. I never did that on purpose. It was just how I was being. And the more awareness I've gained over the course of my self-awareness journey and my personal development journey, I've shifted. My maximizer strength is now number 10, not number 1. I retook the StrengthsFinder in 2021, and my number 1 is learner. Number 2 is strategic, which is the same as it was in 2009. Number 3 is achiever, which wasn't even on the top 5. 4 is activator, which was number 4 on the 2009 version. And number 5 is relator, which I believe was number 10 on the 2009 version. So learner, strategic, achiever, activator, and relator are my strengths. So according to this assessment you take, it identifies who it says you are. And when I add my values, my value system, I find that I have a huge value. One of my values is collaboration. Another is connection, synergy, creativity, and impact. So I want to be part of a team. I want to be part of a movement. And what I keep finding is that when I'm part of something for a period of time, it feels like it's just done at some point. It's not a long-term collaboration. I've looked for this for, oh my goodness, the last at least 20 years of my career. I've been seeking for collaboration. I've been seeking for connection, belonging, all of these things. And I find it for a while, and then I don't know what it is. I have theories, but I don't know what it is that causes the time together in those collaborations to be done, to be over. And so it feels almost as if I am a reluctant entrepreneur, maybe. I guess there's something in me that needs to go forward, and despite not having connection and collaboration in like a parallel partnership for that, it feels like I have to go anyway. So my desire in my career is authenticity, being real, which is probably why Chris and I developed the Get Real platform as part of his class that I took in 2020. Being real and safe to explore and excavate what I find and offer it to the world. So that's how I feel I am wired. That's what my journey is. Authenticity, being real, offering a safe space to explore in collaboration, and then excavate whatever it is we're discovering and offer that to the world. And when I say back to some work I've done on the Find Your Why with Simon Sinek, where he has a formula, 2 blanks so that blank, where the first blank is your contribution and the second blank is your impact. I've been thinking about that, and after listening to Marcus Buckingham's latest book, maybe the impact isn't for me to decide. Because if I'm here to do something for a reason, then it's my reason only. And I believe it's bigger than that. I believe that what I'm here to actually offer and do and contribute may or may not have the effect that I think it has. And so when I get attached to something by looking for a way to have that impact, I sort of narrow the focus and I narrow the opportunity, I think, to have the impact be more like a ripple. So if I think of things that I'm offering to the world with a purpose instead of a reason, to me it feels more free, it feels more authentic, it feels less attached to a specific outcome, and it just feels more flowy for me. Now, the challenge I have with that as an entrepreneur, if I take on that identity, is that entrepreneurs have to sell their wares. They have to sell their services. They have to find a way to exchange money for the service they provide. And if I am offering something that the majority of the population doesn't understand, doesn't believe they need, doesn't even understand the language I'm using, then there's a disconnect. So what I am on a current journey to uncover and excavate is clarity. Clarity that can be had so that when I offer the services that are uniquely mine, the clients who hire me to do that don't see me as the provider of the service, but instead feel the effects of the service on them. Meaning, I'm not selling me or my services. What I'm really selling is their results and who they become as a result of having worked with me, having me help them excavate and uncover and discover and own what treasures they find for themselves, for their clients, their coworkers, their employees, any group of people that they might come into contact with. My vision for that is that as conscious, it almost sounds bad to say conscious capitalists, doesn't it? But as people who understand that there is a place in the world for profit with a purpose, those are the clients and customers and maybe individuals that I am committed to serving. And when we can get together in collaboration with that in mind, so that, let's say, I'll make up a company, a coffee shop. Let's say that a coffee shop wants to explore this concept of purpose and wants to say, what is it that's missing that causes our employees to turn over so much? What is it that causes people to go across the street for a different experience in their coffee? I mean, this is kind of a weird example, but I know there are coffee shops in town that are independent coffee shops where people will go to. It's a journey, it's a destination in our small town because of, I think, the way the proprietors cause them to feel. I believe that's part of the allure to some organizations that keep employees, that retain employees, and that attract customers and clients. There's some magic that happens. And I kind of wrote that when I was writing down. Magic happens when we get into that flow state without attachment. It almost feels like magic because it feels like it's easy. And I don't know about you, but I've been conditioned as it relates to work that if it's not hard, you don't deserve the results. I know that sounds really harsh, but in looking back, that's the way I equated the word work. And after listening to Marcus Buckingham's book, he says the work is what you're here to do, your work. Chris will call it your, what does he call it? Your work. I mean, your unique contribution to the world. Your important work, he calls it. What is your important work? What is it that you are here to contribute so that, and again, that's an impact, but I will add it for right now, so that people wake up to their unique abilities as well. For me, as I'm looking at that, it's hard for me to take that vision away and just be who I am every day. Because as an entrepreneur, the hard, cold truth is I still need to make a living. And I need to figure out, for me, not for anyone else, for me, the combination that has people, individuals, and organizations want to pay me because they see the value for themselves, not because of me. So I'm working on formulating a story around that, which I can tell and share so that organizations who maybe struggle a little bit with their culture or their communication or their leadership or the areas that I feel most qualified to support will say to me, we need you. We need what you have to offer. We need the space you can provide for us. We need the safety and the container, maybe, to have these kinds of conversations. And when that happens, the world will change. When people understand that who they become in the places they spend the most time will change the world of their industry, the world of their community, that's when the magic happens. And that's what I'm up to. So when I said in the headline that I think I know who I am, it's with that context. I am a conscious, reluctant, curious, visionary intrapreneur who happens to find myself in an entrepreneurial venture. And for me, that just simply means that I desire to be in connection and in collaboration so that synergistically we can create experiences for employees and clients and customers that allow them to bring their best selves to whatever it is they're doing. Because when that happens, the world changes. So I hope this has given you something to think about in a new way this morning, and together, here we go. We're getting real. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you again.